The Roman Empire, the birth of Rome, 753 BC to 264 BC. 2,700 years ago, on the banks of a small river in central Italy, a handful of shepherds built huts on 7 muddy hills. No one, not a single soul on earth, could have predicted what those huts would become. The greatest empire the ancient world had ever seen. An empire so vast it swallowed 5 million square kilometers of earth. An empire whose laws, language, and ideas still shape your life today, in 2026, over 1,500 years after it fell. This is the complete story of the Roman Empire. And it begins, not with glory, but with a murder. The legend of Romulus and Remus. The story begins. Every great story has a beginning. Rome's begins with a prophecy and a betrayal. In the ancient Italian city of Alba Longa, there lived a king named Numitor. He had a brother, Amulius, consumed by one burning desire: power. Amulius overthrew his own brother, murdered his nephews, and forced Numitor's daughter, a priestess named Rhea Silvia, to take a vow of celibacy. He wanted no heirs, no rivals, no threats. But fate, as it so often does, had other plans. Rhea Silvia gave birth to twin boys. Their father, she claimed, was Mars, the god of war himself. Amulius was furious. He ordered the infants thrown into the Tiber River, left to drown, left to die. The servants placed the tiny boys in a basket and cast them into the flooding river. The basket drifted. It caught on the roots of a fig tree at the foot of the Palatine Hill. And then, something extraordinary happened. A she-wolf, who had recently lost her own cubs, found the crying infants. She did not harm them. She nursed them. She kept them warm. She protected them as her own. A shepherd named Faustulus eventually discovered the boys, and he and his wife raised them as their children. Their names were Romulus and Remus, and they would grow up to change the world. When they learned the truth of their birth, they returned to Alba Longa. They killed Amulius. They restored their grandfather Numitor to his rightful throne. And then, they decided to build something of their own. The founding and the first murder. Romulus founds Rome, 753 BC. The two brothers stood on the hills above the Tiber, looking out over the land that would become their city. But immediately, they disagreed. Romulus wanted to build on the Palatine Hill. Remus wanted the Aventine. They decided to let the gods choose. They would watch for a sign, the flight of birds. Whoever saw more birds fly over his hill would win. Remus saw 6 vultures fly overhead. He cheered. He had won. Then, 12 vultures appeared over Romulus's hill. Both men claimed victory. Remus said his birds came first. Romulus said his birds were double the number. The argument turned into a fight. In a moment of rage, Romulus killed his own twin brother. Some say Remus mockingly leaped over Romulus's new wall, a symbol of disrespect, and Romulus struck him down, saying, "So shall it be with everyone who leaps over my walls." On April 21st, 753 BC, Romulus founded his city on the Palatine Hill. He named it after himself. Roma, Rome, born in blood, built on ambition, destined for eternity. The Seven Kings, the Kingdom of Rome, 753 to 509 BC. Romulus became Rome's first king, but Rome would have 7 kings in total, each one shaping the city in a different way. The first challenge Romulus faced was simple and somewhat embarrassing. His new city was full of men, runaways, outcasts, the desperate and homeless, but there were almost no women. So Romulus invited the neighboring Sabine tribe to a great festival, and when they arrived with their families, the Romans seized their women. The Sabine men were furious. They returned with an army, but the Sabine women themselves stepped forward. These were now their husbands, they said. These were their children. And they made peace. Rome's population doubled overnight. The Romans and Sabines became one people. The kings who followed Romulus each left their mark. Numa Pompilius brought peace and religion. He built the calendar, established the festivals, created the sacred institutions that gave Roman life its rhythm. Tullus Hostilius brought war. He destroyed the rival city of Alba Longa and absorbed its people into Rome, doubling the city's size. But it was the 7th king who destroyed the kingdom entirely. Tarquinius Superbus, Tarquin the Proud. He seized power by murdering his own father-in-law. His wife, who had helped him plot the killing, reportedly drove her chariot over her own father's corpse in the street. Tarquin ruled through fear. He ignored the Senate. He executed enemies without trial. He forced Roman citizens into brutal labor gangs. For years, Rome endured.
They lived in fear.
Until one night in 509 BC, his son committed an unforgivable crime against a noblewoman named Lucretia. Lucretia called her father and husband to her. She told them everything, and then, before their eyes, she drew a dagger and took her own life. A man named Lucius Junius Brutus carried her body to the Roman Forum. He placed it before the people, and he said, "Enough." Rome rose up. Tarquin was expelled. He would spend the rest of his life in exile, desperately trying to reclaim his throne and never succeeding. The monarchy was over. Something new was about to begin.
In 509 BC, the Romans made a decision that would echo through history for the next 2,500 years. Never again would one man hold absolute power. They invented a system. 2 consuls would be elected every single year, each with the power to veto the other. No decision could be made by one man alone. A senate of experienced elders would advise. Popular assemblies would give citizens a voice. It was imperfect. The rich still had more power than the poor. The aristocracy still dominated, but it was a revolution in human thinking. The idea that a government should be accountable, limited, and shared. From this system came the words we still use today. Senate, Republic. Veto, Constitution. The founding fathers of the United States studied Rome obsessively when they designed American democracy. Rome's experiment in self-government would survive, with interruptions, with crises, with near-death experiences, for nearly 500 years. But the Republic's first test came quickly. Rome was still a small city, and the world outside its walls was full of enemies.